Hey everyone, welcome to GTM Secrets. Stephen Lowisz here. Talk about everything go-to-market, sales, marketing, product marketing, analytics, RevOps, content, you name it. Today, I was just telling Miranda here, Miranda Follis, I find government sales to be like the most disgusting thing in the world in terms of just how long and grueling, and it just takes forever, and I'm not one for patience. So I'm really curious to get Miranda's perspective, but Miranda, do you mind taking a second and giving a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. So I have been in marketing for over a decade now, and most of my focus has been on government marketing. I was in the criminal justice sector for a while, but still focused on government as well. I'm now in the government healthcare tech
It's
world.
even worse.
Yeah. So combine the two things that you said you hate, and there you go. So yeah, government healthcare tech, which is still very important. It's a very important industry. And I was brought on to a company called Citizen, which we launched in 2023. Technically, our official launch was 2024, but I was brought on to help launch that brand. And we are a subsidiary of Softheon, who is our parent company.
Got it. So I love setting the frame, and I think the best way to do that is, can you be specific with what you market? And you're in product marketing, so I'm sure you can talk to that. And then who in the government is your ICP, your ideal customer?
So we focus on a couple different avenues, but we do state-based marketplaces. So we want to focus on certain states that are bringing that in-house. The best way I described is most people have heard of healthcare.gov. That's the federal platform. So a lot of states are bringing that inside their own state to run it. So we are helping with the technology to run that platform. Another ICP, I guess, would be the HS world. So Health and Human Services. We have a product called Verify that we want to help with the asset verification, income and employment, and then reducing fraud, waste, and abuse. So we do that through a lot of Medicaid agencies, but we are open to expanding to other needs for the asset verification.
I don't want to get into politics, but you did just say like the Doge tagline, fraud, waste, and abuse. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, absolutely. And
coincidence
it's a
or
huge
not?
topic right now. Yeah, it really is. And there's billions of dollars that go to fraud, waste, and abuse in the healthcare sector. And it's very disturbing how much money is wasted. And so, our job is try to reduce that through our technology.
Pro-Doge, anti-Doge, I don't care. When I'm bored, I will go on the Doge website and see what they've cut. And it's comical and also depressing when it's our money. I don't want to segue too much into politics.
Sure.
So, okay, on the state marketplace side, you literally have 50 potential clients. And then the HHS, I mean, that's one agency. I'm sure you're targeting multiple people within each of these, but like who in the state of Michigan, where I'm at, would you be targeting for their marketplace? I mean, is it the CIO of the state of Michigan? I mean, who is it?
Yeah, it's different. It varies. So there's a lot of different targets because everything's procurement based. So we want to get in front of the procurement officers. We want to be in front of directors. So while you would think like you want to get in front of the governor or something like that, those aren't necessarily the people that are making the full decisions about that stuff. So it's different in every state typically, but you want to get into, anyone that's in charge of some sort of healthcare and directors of procurement. Absolutely. The procurement industry is huge. There's definitely different roles within it. And so it's not always a straight answer of here's who we want to get in front of, It makes sure
you're saying everything I hate in life: procurement, government, healthcare.
Yeah.
I mean, no thank you. So God bless you. I would eat lead personally. So, all right, taking all that into account, what is a day in the life of a product marketer at your company look like?
Sure. So the one thing I absolutely love about my position is that no 2 days are the same. I do something different every day. While I have the same goals and targets, I'm looking at anything from running, email campaigns, doing social media, which for government is primarily LinkedIn, or, a little bit of X now, formerly Twitter. But, we also are doing a lot of branding with our subsidiary. We are still new, so we're still refining some of our positioning, some of our branding. So that's actually been very fun. That I enjoy doing that stuff. But a lot of my time is also spent on the RFP cycles and proposals and helping craft the right answers for the responses.
I have a background in enterprise sales, and again, RFPs, no thank you. God bless you. So if let's talk about the go-to-market for your company. So if I'm you, I've got essentially 51 organizations I could target, and I realize they're giant organizations and you could target 18 different people in each, maybe even a lot more. I'm going to go, target them on with ads, do direct outreach, LinkedIn, try to be where they're at, etc. Where does the product marketing come into play? Because let's take the governor of Michigan. I know that you said that, Governor Whitmer may not be making the decision, but let's just take her as one example. She doesn't care about the tech. She doesn't care about the product, right? She cares about the impact and what it does. So how do you market something so technical to people that really don't give a rip about technology?
Right. So we have to, with all marketing, you want to find out what is the client's problem and how do we solve it as a company? So fraud, waste, and abuse is the hot topic right now. So how do we get in front of them? Well, it's about keywords. So you want to focus on those keywords. And then I'm all about metrics and data. I want to show what is the problem, whether it's $2 billion lost, and how can we reduce that? And what would we reduce it by? So it's focusing on those metrics. So in order to get in front of them, it's not always ad-based for government sales. And, because the government sales cycles are long, we have
years.
to track, years. We have to have a track of a mix of early, mid, and late stage indicators to see what's working, and it's always evolving. Sometimes something that works for one state may not work for another. They may not have the same issues, but sometimes the main issues at heart, fraud, waste, and abuse across the country, or providing healthcare. That's what we want to do. We want to provide affordable healthcare to those individuals who really need. And that's the basis of our mission. On the early side, we look at the agency's engagement metrics. How engaged are they with LinkedIn posts, with responding and opening to our emails, with click rates. If engagement drops, then we have to adjust our messaging. Mid-funnel, we would see how the RFP influence rate is, how many RFPs are coming out with language that matches our positioning. If that number falls, we know that getting in early enough is very important. Late stages would be deal conversion. How quickly are the opportunities moving through the funnel? And in government, they're not moving quickly at all, so it's a very, very long process. And handling procurement is not easy. It's a difficult task that takes a lot of adjustments and figuring out the proper messaging, pricing going into it. Pricing's huge for everyone, let alone state agencies that are trying to make sure that they can justify the expense, especially when we can, constantly see budgets getting cut.
So when I think product marketing, I usually think middle and bottom of funnel, right? Trying to communicate and market the product at a more technical level than just branding typically, and everywhere's a little different. Are you mostly middle and bottom, or are you also helping at the top of funnel? What does that look like?
So my position, I'm kind of helping all over because we are a smaller subsidiary with us just launching last year. So everyone's wearing multiple hats, right now. So, but typically I think government marketing, product marketers would focus at mid and bottom. But right now you're just getting out there as much as you can, being newly launched. And, I say that we're newly launched, but we do have a couple clients, that came on. And that's why we started the government division, basically. So, it's interesting to focus on the middle is mostly what you would see for our proposal team. We're wanting to get in there, see if there's any RFIs, which are, them requesting any information. We know that that's going to result in a proposal or a request for a proposal, most likely, which, as you know, that's how you get business. 99% of our business comes from the procurement process and RFPs.
Gross. I'm a little blunt.
Yeah.
So here's the scenario that you're in, I think, is interesting because, I mean, that since January 20th, again, not commenting good or bad, everything's up in the air. Every dollar spent in the government, and more on the federal side, but states are trying to react and so forth. Everything's up in the air. And I want to apply, before I get to the question, want to apply it to more of the corporate marketers that listen to this. Agents and co-pilots are kind of taking over the SaaS world, and you don't know what's going to happen, with Salesforce and HubSpot and Microsoft and everyone that's coming out with a new agent. And people talk about SaaS going away altogether, which I think is asinine. But you have all this uncertainty. You have no idea what's going to happen in the market. How do you even think about establishing growth goals when a good chunk of it's outside of your hands? It's not just how well can you sell or market. There's a lot of outside factors right now. So how does your company even wrap their heads around quotas and growth?
Yeah, it's not an easy challenge, that's for sure. And I think the key is blending ambition with data-driven realism. It's about looking at historical procurement trends. We have to track legislative and budget cycles and categorize that into our pipeline for near term, midterm, and long term. That way we aren't guessing. It's trying to come up with a planned, more of an informed bet. That you want to come prepared with what's expected, and to see, we have somebody that's devoted to always tracking policy and seeing what's in the news. So we do a lot of social listening, a lot of, reading articles and just researching nonstop. And, as we continue to build out our company, I would love to have somebody that's just dedicated to research, because that's so important in the government market to see who's interested in bringing, for example, the state-based marketplace in-house. What states are interested in making that move. And we have advisors and consultants that we work with too that are in the industry that help inform us on some of that stuff.
Because you have such a small target market, now granted, your ACV's got to be through the frickin' roof for every client landed. I can't even imagine. But you have such a finite target market. So how do companies that are in niches like that, albeit I don't know if many more that would be more challenging, how do you plan out, hey, I need more marketing versus I need some, virtual door knockers that are just going to bust through and talk to the right people? I'm on the aggressive side. I tend to err on the side of let's just go sell our asses off. That's probably not the right answer. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how do you balance sales versus marketing in such a niche market?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, marketing and sales go hand in hand, of course, and like I said, we wear multiple hats. So there's days where I feel more like a sales rep than a marketer. But I think a lot of companies default just hiring more sales reps, saying go out there and get the business. But the problem is more process of inefficiency, and reps won't fix that. Going out and just trying to sell stuff isn't the answer. So I think the tipping point is for RevOps is, to start seeing data silos, inconsistent forecasting and pipeline bottlenecks that aren't, changing your leads into conversion. It's so hard for us to say this is a lead and now this is an actual contract, because it's so different in the government world. But we can sit there and say, we know what these states are going to do. We know that these agencies are interested in doing this through our research, through social listening, through our policies, and what's happening in, politics. We may not like it, but we have to adjust our strategy for that. I wouldn't say that you need more marketing or more sales. I think it should stay even. There's going to be times where you need people warming the RFPs and going out and setting these meetings. So in that case, yeah, you would need more sales than you would marketers, but it's just important to get the emails out there, to get the LinkedIn post out there, to get in front of them, to say, look, we have this to offer you. Please meet with us. And then the sales have to step in and really warm the RFP. And you're looking at warming RFPs no later than 6 months before you're expecting an RFP. If you're not ahead of it, even though, we want to say government's all RFP based and through procurement, and it comes down, some people will say it comes down to whoever has the best pricing or the best technology. If you don't have a relationship with those potential clients, then you're just throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, you're still selling to people. Even in the RFPs I used to do, limited though, in enterprise sales, still came down to relationships.
Absolutely.
Maybe not on the government side, I don't know, but there were even times where customers would come to me and say, have to give you an RFP, but if you fill it out, you win.
That's great.
And
Yeah.
that was a pain in the butt, but that was nice. So one of the reasons that I love startups, and I run a 4-person startup, is it is such a quick feedback loop, right? Everything, you're going 100 miles an hour. Our buying cycles are, enterprise is 90 to 60 days, but I mean, a lot of our deals are 2-week free trial and we're done. Yeah. I look at my ad metrics every day. I look at our outbound metrics every day because things are constantly changing. With what you're doing, I can't imagine that looking at the same numbers every day is going to be very helpful because it's such a long sales cycle and government doesn't move fast. Now, you mentioned earlier that you look at email metrics and whatnot, kind of gauge that as a form of intent, if you will. I'm sure you have good lead scoring and so forth. But with all of that, how often do you look at metrics and what are the metrics that you look at, one level up from click-through rate?
Sure. I should say that trade shows are also a very vital part of government marketing. So and as you stated, like relationships are so important. And that's how we meet a lot of people. We develop those relationships there. So we try our best to track any kind of ROI. What are we putting into trade shows as far as how much is the spend? Are we sponsoring it? And it's difficult. It's very difficult to track because we're not signing up somebody or selling something at the booth because of the procurement cycle. So some of the metrics that we would very much be tracking would be not just click-through rates, but, multiple engagement. Who's coming back to the post? Who's coming back and being a lead that's, opening emails over and over again? I think the biggest mistake is focusing too much on lead generation and not lead nurturing. And especially in government sales, it's not about who sees our brand. Although as a marketer, we want our brand to be the best. We want everyone to know what Citizen is, who we are, and what we're about. But it's who trusts us. And especially in government, it's all about trust. And if we can't convey that through thought leadership, through content, through our actual technology and solutions, then we're falling short. So at the root of all business, it's about trust and how can we help solve the problems of any agency or potential client.
No, that makes sense. I think even outside of government, even in a 30-day sales cycle, there's not enough emphasis on nurturing. It's like, hey, do you like my stuff? Do you not? Get out. I think that's a very poor way of doing things. In my opinion, treat every customer like gold and help influence their decision by providing value. Easy to say, hard to do. Right. So you mentioned LinkedIn posts a few times, like seeing who's commenting, liking, whatever. How do you monitor that? Is it manual or do you have a tool to do that?
We currently use Hootsuite as our social media management tool. So it tracks analytics pretty well. We have a really great marketing generalist who is focused on social media. So he spends a lot of his time just reading the metrics of everything and determining, is it accurate, number one, because a lot of these platforms don't provide the most accurate metrics. So he will validate the metrics and then determine our next position, because the decisions that aren't always made by the same person. So our marketing has to reach multiple people, from procurement officers to IT teams to directors, so we have to pivot and have different messages for each audience.
So if somebody's clicking all over and Hootsuite picks it up, do you automatically send that to a lead scoring system to compare it to your email data? Is it manual? Like what does your lead scoring setup look like?
So currently we do a manual lead scoring system. And, as we grow, I really hope that we will have some other process for that. But we do manual. And as I said, our marketing generalist is a rock star, and he sits and will analyze and compare and has tons of spreadsheets. And so it is a manual process right now. But, it's worked so far. So hopefully it continues to work and we grow. But yeah, manual.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Being in a MarTech company where part of what we do is lead scoring, that gives me an aneurysm as well.
Yeah. Now, I think, to most marketers who hear that are going to be like, oh my gosh. But in the government world, you're not talking about tens of thousands of leads to monitor. It's very small and limited. Like we were talking about the state-based marketplace. We have 51 potential leads, so we're not dealing with a whole lot more.
No, that makes perfect sense. Outside of nurturing, and here's how I kind of want to wrap up. Again, we make these commute worthy. I mentioned that before. Here's my last question. Outside of nurturing, what do most product marketers get wrong?
I think
not a
it's
loaded
easier.
question at all.
Yeah, because I want to say I don't get anything wrong. No, I think being set in a certain strategy is the biggest mistake that you can make. And saying, we're not going to evolve, we're not going to pivot. That's just going to kill you right away. Learning from your mistakes. If you're targeting the wrong audience and you're not getting the metrics that you were planned to get, then you have to immediately pivot and try to come up with a different strategy. And instead, a lot of product marketers will continue to push the strategy. Because yes, it takes time for marketing to take hold and work, but don't commit to it so hard. If you have a wrong idea, then admit it and come up with a different strategy. And I think that marketing wants to be, I definitely think marketing should be behind the scenes. But again, we work so closely with sales that there's nothing wrong with nurturing those leads as well. And while your name may not be on an email or upfront, and it could be the sales rep, you're still nurturing that lead in that role.
No, that makes perfect sense. Well, Miranda, I really appreciate you jumping on. I think you have the most challenging niche out of anyone that I've talked to. So really appreciate you lending insights. Everyone says LinkedIn. Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
LinkedIn. Yep, for sure.
Fair enough. Again, thank you so much, Miranda.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.